Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series and our program Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Kathleen Antrim.
Thanks, Doug. It's great to be here. And today we've got a great interview for you. I'd like to welcome to the show Daniella Bernett. She's the author of how many books now? It looks like 10 to 12.
It's 10. This is book 10.
This is book 10. Yeah, I mean, so exciting. And I know that this is a series. But before we get to that, I want to ask you about your childhood.
Oh, my childhood. Well,
Yes.
it was rather simple, nothing too exciting.
Well,
I come from a very close-knit family. It was always just my parents and my sister and me. Um, right now, I mean, my father passed away in 2020, so it's just my mother and my sister and me. I live with my sister, but we're near our mother, so I can't imagine not being near my family. That I would never move across the country. So we've always been very close knit. So that's
well,
rather, yeah.
one of the questions I really want to know is if you feel that your childhood impacted you becoming a writer. Did you have imaginary friends? Were you introverted? Were you extroverted? Tell us about that part.
Well, it definitely impacted me as a writer because I have to thank my parents because they read to my sister and me when we were very little. We always had books around the house. So I developed that love of the written word because my parents always read to me. And when I was in school, like we had whatever we were assigned in English class, but I was always reading for pleasure, something on the side. And I can't imagine a day without reading. It's just unimaginable because like I said, it developed a love of the written word. And I was like, that sparked like I can do that too. It sparked my imagination that I could create my own story. So yes, I definitely have to thank my parents for that.
Did you go to school to become a writer? I mean, when did you decide that you were going to be a writer and how did this transpire?
Sure. I decided I wanted to be a writer when I was 9 years old because I went to public school, but my fourth grade teacher, each week she had a creative writing hour and she gave us different assignments each week. And I just loved that. I was like, that's what I want to do. So then I was always writing stories on my own. And then I have a BS in journalism because that was the natural progression for me. I haven't practiced as a journalist, but that's my background. So I knew from when I was 9 years old that writing was my life. For me now, writing is like breathing. I just have to do it.
Well, that's the tale of a real writer for sure.
Well, when did that happen? When did you say, okay, I can do this, but I'm going to sit down and write a dark and stormy night? I mean, when did this actually happen and how did that process evolve?
Okay, well, in school, I was always writing like little short stories, mysteries, and so forth. And when I graduated from college, my first job was at Penguin USA, the publisher, and I was a
Hmm.
copywriter, writing the back cover copy and doing ads and so forth.
Wow.
And then, but in the 4 months before I was hired at Penguin, I wrote a novel. It was a mystery novel because naturally that's what I loved to read. And then one day when I was at Penguin, I got up the courage to show it to the editor who her purview was mysteries. And she actually read it. And then she came back to me and she said, it's better than what she sees from a lot of first time writers, but I have to think more in terms of a series. So I tried revising that novel and it just didn't work. So I put it aside and I chalked it up to a good exercise. But I kept thinking about her advice. In the meantime, in the intervening years, I wrote two poetry collections, and those were published. And then after that, the kernel for the idea from my Emmeline Kirby Gregory Long, it was percolating in the back of my mind until finally one day I said, okay, I'm going to sit down. And I started writing Lead Me into Danger, which is the first book in the series. And now here we are, it's Secrets Lie in Wait, book 10, and I'm working on book 11 right now.
Well, tell us about Emmeline and Gregory. I mean, how did you come up with these characters and who are they?
Okay, well, currently they're both British. My protagonists are British. Emmeline is the editorial director of investigative features at the Clarion newspaper in London. And Gregory is now her husband. He is a former jewel thief, in quotes, but he's an insurance investigator. He's the chief investigator at the insurance firm Symington's. But he still steals jewels because life would be too dull if he, for
Of
him not,
course. Why wouldn't
and
you?
and why would he want to let his skills atrophy? That would just be tragic. So as I said, that now right now they're married, but it took a while for them to get to this point because in the first book, Lead Me into Danger, they had been engaged, but she hadn't seen him in 2 years. Because the day before their wedding, he disappeared, and she didn't know what happened to him. And in the intervening time, she found out that he was a jewel thief, and so she hadn't seen him. Then she literally runs into him in Venice after witnessing two men try to murder a colleague of hers. And that's how that story starts. And there's a Russian mole in the British Foreign Office, and that's how that starts. So at the beginning, she's a bit resentful, but, in a way, she's happy to see him. But, she doesn't know why he left her in the first place. Then the next book, they get embroiled in another thing. And slowly, slowly, she starts to thaw towards him. And then by the third book, the readers find out why he left her in the first place, and he betrays her in the third book. I don't think readers liked me very much in that book, but in the end, she forgave him. They got back to where they are, and then they finally got married. But when they got married, Emmeline laid down the law. She said, you find a legitimate job or else I'm not marrying you. So he did find a legitimate job as the chief investigator of Symington's, but he's still stealing jewels. So shh, we're not going to tell her that.
Did you know this was going to be a series when you started?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I had
You
an
had that in
idea.
mind. Yeah.
I had before I started. I sat down to write "Lead Me into Danger." I had the idea for a series because I wanted to take my time to develop the characters, to let them evolve and interact with one another. So yes, I had. And before I started the first book, I had the idea for the first few books in my head
Okay.
because you leave a little something in one book, you develop it a little bit more in the next one. So I had to have that plan because in general, when I write, I like to plan the story out in my head. I don't do outlines because that's too much for me. But I like to
Okay.
plan the story in my head because I need to know who the murderer is from the start, because then I can lay down the red herrings and the real clues. And if a twist comes along the way, of course, I'm going to introduce that to heighten the tension and the suspense. But I have to have that basic skeleton to follow. And that's the same philosophy with the series. I put something in one, then I develop that secret in the next one, and so forth down the line.
Okay. Well, that was going to be my next question. So you're more a pantser than a plotter. Yeah.
No, no, I think
I
I lean
mean,
more towards plotting, but I
but in
do.
your head, not on paper.
No, not on paper. No,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know I admire the people who can do outlines, but that's too much, too much for me to do.
I agree. I agree. Let me ask you this. You said you've written a couple of poetry collections.
Yes.
I have several collections of poetry, and every now and then I will go back and read through some of them because I think it's a different style, but it
Yes.
speaks to you differently. I mean, I'll even go back and read Shakespeare sometimes. I have all his works on my
Mm,
computer, and sometimes I just get a feeling, let's go read 20 minutes of Shakespeare. It it
mhm.
it 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 does something to your writing. I don't know what it is, but at least does something to your. Do you think that your poetry writing helped you create these novels and make them as good as they are?
Yes, definitely, because my poetry, it doesn't rhyme, but it's very descriptive, and
Yes.
it has the emotion in there. Like if a place impressed me, that's in my poetry. And of course, it's more lyrical. It's a bit more flowery than the prose with a series. However, setting plays an important role in all of my books, and I like to describe the scene, this the place for a park or the canal, because this one takes place in Amsterdam, the canal, because that gives a richness to the storyline, and it helps the readers, at least I think so, it helps the readers feel like they're there and they're
Yeah.
walking in the character's footsteps, to give it a bit of believability, a reality, authenticity to the story. Because all of my books, I've been to the places which I describe in the books. So I can bring that personal perspective to the story. And I think that's important. It helps for the reader too. I think it sets the
Mhm.
mood, and just for them as an escape, to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
somewhere
I
else.
find poets are very good at finding just the right word and the right metaphor. You know,
Well,
and it's a word that you wouldn't think of, but when you read it, you say, okay, I see how this came about and how this message was delivered. Well, when you go back to your writing, you don't obviously use that word, but it makes you think about what you're doing a little differently. And that's what
yes.
that, yeah, yeah, I like that. Well, tell
Mm.
us about the new book. Um,
Okay. Well,
there you go.
okay. There's an awful lot of, yes, secrets lie in wait. It's partially set in London because, as I said, Emmeline and Gregory live in London, but most of the action takes place in Amsterdam, a beautiful city. However, in my philosophy is, in beauty, there's danger and evil lurking underneath. And of course, we start off with Gregory. He's been kidnapped. He's found on a houseboat along a canal in Amsterdam next to a dead body. And then there's someone there pointing a gun at him. So Gregory has a lot of enemies. And the thing is, nobody back home knows where he is at the outset. So that heightens the tension. So in this book, I did it started off a little bit differently, because usually Emmeline, as the investigative journalist, her questions are the spark that sets off the danger and the explosion of misadventure. In this one, I turned it around and had Gregory at the center of the danger from the. I mean, he gets in danger in the other books too, but from the beginning, the story starts out from Gregory's perilous predicament. And then the story also involves a diamond smuggling operation, headed by a Russian mafia boss, Bogdan Kozlov. And also, it's also connected to this is fictitious in my book, but it's based on a real diamond. I call it the golden tulip in my book. It's a 130 carat yellow diamond, and it's
Mm.
actually a brooch on a platinum stem with emeralds. And it was stolen by a notorious Nazi back in World War II. And Gregory is trying to recover it and restore it to its original owners. But the Russian mafia boss and a Dutch underworld figure, they're after the golden tulip. So I entwined that aspect of the tale with the diamond smuggling operation, because as you may know, that Amsterdam is a renowned diamond trading hub in the world.
Hmm.
So that was natural, putting the diamonds and the
Sure.
diamond. So essentially, and then Emmeline, from her part, she's asking a lot of questions. She wants to clear, again, Gregory being found next to a dead body, he's accused of the murder. So now Emmeline's trying to get to the truth and clear his name, and that's how it starts off.
Well,
Wow.
where can people find more about you and find the book? It's coming. It just came out, right?
It was just released on
Yeah.
December 6th, just a
Cool.
couple of days ago.
Well, where can people go to find out about you and this book and your other books?
Sure. I have my website, daniellabernett.com. And there are buy links there, and there's information on each book. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Goodreads. I'm on LinkedIn. On my website, there's an email there. So if somebody wants to drop me a note, I'm happy to hear from people. And I enjoy that, talking about books and writing. So I'd be pleased to hear from people. And my books can be found wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever
Yeah.
books are sold.
That's
Cool.
fabulous. Daniela, it's been great having you. We will have to have you again when your next book comes out.
Oh,
And Doug,
please. I had a wonderful time.
you're great. You're really great. And Doug, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, thanks for being here. It was a lot of fun, and I
Yes.
hope the book does very, very well. I'm sure it
Oh,
will.
thank
In
you.
fact, I hope the whole series does well. And do let us
Oh,
know when
thank
the
you.
next one's coming.
Oh,
Um,
yes, I will.
yeah, and go find Daniella's website and her books and read some of them. You'll have fun. So that concludes this episode of Get to Know here on the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series. And until next time, we will be back, as you know, with more interviews. So keep reading, keep writing, keep having fun, and try not to get caught.
Yes. That's